first off, I would love to get your initial reaction to getting cast in this because Dune is such a huge franchise. So, also, did you feel any of that pressure and how did you overcome that?
I was kind of blissfully unaware of the size of the franchise, really. I'd seen the first Dune, the Villeneuve movie, but I didn't have a sense of the scope of the size of the universe. So that was probably quite a good thing, because then I just started reading the scripts and going, oh, this is interesting. This is a really interesting woman. This family is really messed up. And she is full of rage, and yet she's become this supremely in control, charismatic leader. I want some of that. I want to get in there.
Yeah, I didn't really have any idea what I'd let myself in for until there was a man fixing my TV, and I told him I was going to play Tula Harkonnen, and he knelt at my feet. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
I better learn my lines then.
I love that. Well, tell me a little bit about your body language with your roles, because often when you don't even have words that you're saying, we see the pain in your eyes. And I just want to see, like, what are you kind of envisioning in that moment? Because I get some stark looks from both of you that I get a little scared. So what are you thinking in those moments?
I think Valia is often scheming. She is attempting to just stay several steps ahead of everybody, and I think she thinks she's sort of the chosen one who knows. You know, I was told I would be the one to see the vision, to see, you know,
Right.
And so she's often scheming, but she's also, as the series go by, I think, as they probably both are, really haunted by the past. And then at this sense that things are coming back to bite them.
Yeah, for me, it's a sign of a good script. You know, when one character says something to me that annoys me, the joy of being an actor is that you can show it on your face, whereas in real life, you're supposed to disguise your responses. But the joy of acting is that you get to get it out there.
Would you say that the sisterhood is well-intentioned?
Valia would, for sure. So is well-intentioned. Yes, we are. It's the survival of humankind is at stake, and we are choosing the path that will create the best leaders, bring together the best bloodlines to see justice and peace. That's the aim.
Got it.
But and how we justifying the means.
Yeah, how we get there is very shady indeed.
Yeah. Yes, I think, you know, all characters, you know, you learn as an actor when you play them, you have to believe that your character thinks they're doing the right thing, however misguided that may be with a bit of distance. But I think they believe that their enemies are truly evil, and revenge is a dish best consumed cold.
Oh, okay. What a statement. We love that statement. And what advice?
It's not original, by the way. I can be able to credit someone else for that.
And what advice would you give your characters if you were their friend in real life?
Get over it.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a good one.
Don't believe your own publicity, or you just don't. Yeah. Don't do things you're going to regret. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I need first reactions when you guys got cast. I mean, Dune is such a huge franchise. Like, did you feel any sort of pressure, and how did you overcome that?
I mean, initial reaction, like, you know, acting itself is a very tough game. So, like, booking any job is always a blessing. But to be involved in something that is so prestigious and, you know, on such a prestigious network, that was kind of taken back a little bit at first, I think, and a little shocked, but then overwhelming excitement, I think, was the first thought.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I fell in love with the universe when I watched the Dune Part 1, Denis Villeneuve. So to get to portray this character and be a part of this universe myself, I was just thrilled. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fan first, so it's kind of a dream project to get.
Amazing.
Yeah. You get that call saying,
Yeah.
book the role, you're like, okay.
Wow. I love
So,
that.
yeah.
So I'm assuming that you guys underwent extreme training because you guys are so talented. My God, okay, Swordmaster. So
There
tell
he
me a
is.
little bit about that. Like, what was that process like?
Yeah, we started early. We were lucky with the schedule, how it worked with our like first scenes or like actually on camera scenes. We had about a month, I think, and we were in every day.
Yeah.
And you know, you start off and saying we look back at the videos of us the first week and it's really bad. You know, we're really like taking our time slowly and learning, but the stunt team were fantastic
Yeah.
with us and very patient. And you know, and then you get to set and the adrenaline hits and the stakes and the scene and the acting, the performance comes into it a bit more, and it really brings something to it. And they're so fun to shoot.
It is, yeah, it was
Hard work, but
so much fun. Like such, because, you know, obviously you're the sword master, but Inez is also quite badass at sword fighting, and I've never done any sword fighting before, so it was such a cool challenge. And also because the stunt team that we worked with actually also invented the Atreides style for the films.
Oh,
So it was
There's a nice
so
crossover
cool.
there.
Yeah.
And they just knew everything inside out. It was,
Yeah.
well, overall, what advice would you all give your characters if you were their friend in real life?
Oh God.
And I need honest reactions.
I would say I would tell Constantine just to trust his intuition and just follow that and try not to get distracted along the way.
That's a good one.
Thanks.
Yeah, I would say something like the same, or like just believe in yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, stay true to your heart. I think that's what I would say.
Oh, that's a good
Stay
one.
true to your heart. Yeah.
I love the wholesomeness.
That's a
Yes.
good one. Yeah.
I love it so much. So tell me a little bit about as a viewer. Obviously you're working on the set, you're, you know, interacting with each other, but what was that like kind of seeing it on screen for the first time and seeing that all come together?
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's great is like, you know, obviously read the scripts and been involved and stuff, but like seeing everyone else's work and seeing the other planets that we're not involved in and stuff really can blow you away. And also just seeing a show and knowing that it's going to reach such a big audience, not just the fans, but also the people who are not familiar with Dune are going to be able to watch the show and see, you know, a family drama, political drama,
Yeah.
action, love, passion, fight, you know, all these things. So seeing it all come together really kind of was quite an amazing thing.
Yeah, I was very excited when I saw it for the first time, the first episode, and I was like, yeah, I just feel so grateful and lucky to be part of this with all these amazing people. And yeah, it just really, something that I really felt when watching it for the first time was that it's this epic show, but it feels very grounded and real because of the characters. Like, it's so well written. And I think, yeah, it's just so, I feel like a lot of people, even people that are not fans of sci-fi, really enjoy it because it's so character driven, and yeah, with everything you said, like family dynamics and all of that, and political alliances, and there's so many different genres in it, I feel. Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah, I think to both of their points, there's so much for everyone in this show. Like, you get the family dynamics, you get the sci-fi, there's even like horror aspects. There's, and then I guess looking back at it and getting to watch the show for the first time, it's because I guess a lot of your scenes are filmed in isolation. Half the cast I'd never even filmed with, or like some of them I didn't even meet. So then you come back, you sit back and you watch it, and you're like, okay, this is incredible. Like, you get to see all the pieces put together, and you read it and you interpret it differently to how it is then displayed in the final product. So it's like that sort of thing is kind of incredible to watch.
it was incredible. Also seeing the other worlds.
Yeah.
It was the planets. Yeah, it's so cool.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much. All right. So first off, you both, the acting is so strong. So I want to say your characters both have kind of wisdom among the, you know, beyond their years. So I would love to know, how did you kind of reiterate that in your own personal life? Do you envision yourself kind of being similar to your character in that way?
I'm going to say one thing.
Yeah.
Chloe is also somebody who is young and has wisdom beyond their years.
Okay.
So, like, I was like,
That's very kind, Jade.
it's true. Like, when we were filming this, you were actually an actual child. like an actual child.
Got it. Okay.
And but also one of the wisest on set. So I think there's a lot of similarities on that aspect with you and your character.
When you guys were reading the script, because obviously there's cliffhangers, but were you just as shocked when you read some of the parts?
Oh my God,
Were
I
you
was
taken
gagged
back?
the whole time. Sorry,
Yeah.
I was. Let me translate.
She's just taught me this.
That's what gagged me.
It's Gen Z.
Yes, I'm a
was-
millennial, so
Which
I get
obviously
it.
I know.
I was okay. No, I'm gonna commit. I was gagged the whole time, literally reading every episode, every single page I turned. I was
She's
like,
such
"What
a
is
brat.
going on?" Jesus Christ. But I mean, like, I think reading the episodes, I was like so enticed, and now getting to watch some of the episodes as well, I've been even more like on the edge of my seat because we're getting to see stuff that we weren't there to film, and
Yeah,
which
like-
is so insane.
Ep 1, I mean, it's just Ep 1, and when I watched it for the first time, I was like, literally,
Yeah.
I was thinking, I must have read this.
Yeah, I know what's
Yeah,
going
yeah,
on.
yeah,
but,
I know what you're
I'm
saying.
shocked.
It's honestly, there was some, and I was like, and this is only Ep 1, like, we're only an hour in, and
Yeah.
like, I'm like, already like, oh my gosh.
Girl, I had the same experience. And you're the one acting, and I'm like, it's cool that you had the same experience
Yeah.
as us. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about what characteristics in your characters that you definitely want emphasized. Like, did you know from the get-go, I want her to be like this?
Lila's so like stoic, man. She's like
Mm.
always, yeah, she's always like looking off into the distance, thinking about things. She's either sad or happy. I don't know. I think, yeah, I really wanted to emphasize kind of like the human qualities of Lila. I think because you know it's easy when you're getting into a sci-fi show to just be like overwhelmed with how big the universe is, and I think our show does a really good job at like sucking you in like an appropriate way. But I think
Into
with-
like the relationship.
yeah, into the relationship
yeah.
and the humanity of these, because these are humans. Like these characters are humans. They're on alien planets, but they're human people with human relationships. And I think, yeah, I really wanted to emphasize that Lila's just a teenager who is figuring stuff out, and she doesn't exactly know where she comes from, and that's kind of her biggest mental challenge. Even though she's a part of this world where we're literally training how to read people's minds, I wanted it to be really like human, and I wanted that to connect with people.
And being that Dune is such a huge franchise, my last question is, did you feel any pressure kind of fulfilling that role that you got?
I mean, there is a bit of pressure because it is so big, and you know that the fan base is huge. But the beauty of us is, well, especially in terms of the films, is that we're like 10,000 years before, right? So we get to kind of set that. But then you've got the books, and you've got all of, isn't there comics and stuff? Like, there's a whole like world, but like my character, your character, they're new characters. So I felt quite free in terms of being able to create a new character that would be a new character part of this Dune universe. And so, yeah, pressure, but also exciting because like, it's so cool to come into something that's so well established, and that there are so many like fans like rooting for the show to do well, and rooting to find out about new characters as well.
I think that's what I felt as well, like with how cool the scripts are and how cool like the stories are for both of our characters.
Yeah.
I think the exciting element overruled the like nerves and the, you know, the scariness to kind of, and also I know that the fans are like rooting for the show. They just want good television, and I feel like hopefully they enjoy
It's good TV.
Yeah, it's good
It
TV.
is. I agree.
And I think fans of like the Dune, the whole Dune universe, this will be something they want to
Duniverse.
see. The Duniverse.
Okay.
This will be something that they'll be excited for as well. So I
Yeah.
think I have some relief in that. Yeah.
What kind of advice, if you were your character's friend, real life friend, would you give them? Not the laughing. What's in there, girl? I need to know what's behind that laugh.
It's kind of the, you know,
Uh-huh.
I think Lila's too trustworthy, I think sometimes. And it's like, get up, girl. Like,
Yeah.
come on, think for yourself for a bit. Stop being so loyal. And,
Yeah.
you know, I feel like there's times like that where I was like, come on, babe. Like, you know, you need to trust yourself on this.
Yeah.
Do what's best for you.
I don't know, for Theo. She don't need anybody.
You don't need no advice.
She just needs herself.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about that transition. Obviously, we're working with a green screen, and then you kind of see the final product. So did that was that a shock factor for you?
It wasn't.
It was amazing how much
Oh,
set there was,
Yeah.
and how big the sets
Most
were.
of the stuff you
Interesting.
see
Like,
is
for example,
physical.
But for example, like when we do our like Prana Bindu on the side of the cliff,
Uh-huh.
like it was a bit of a cliff. Like, it was pretty intense. But also, you do, when the camera like pans out, you're like, oh, the world.
Because that's like the
and then it goes
extended-
then it goes out of the planet, and then it goes like to it, and like all of that.
So like we've been talking like a lot about how like great like the set design was, but also like the VFX that is used is the artists, they did a killer
Oh
job.
my gosh,
Yeah.
unbelievable. Like when you're in like there's like like in the spaceport as well.
Yeah.
Like we were walking and there was so many essays, honestly, hundreds. But then also when you see it, it's like that times about another 10. And they're like, oh wow, it's just even more epic than it was being there, and it was epic on set. But like, I just think what they've done with the special effects and all of that is just so
Insane.
epic, so good.
Amazing. Well, did you both think that the sisterhood had good intentions?
The sisterhood has good intentions.
Lila thinks that the sisterhood has great intentions. Me, myself, now, could go either way. Could go either way.
Oh, okay.
I think that's the beauty
I
of
think
the
the
show.
intention is good.
The intention,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And I think that it's fun. Then it's up for debate.
Basically, just don't cross them.
Okay.
You don't want to cross them.
I don't want to cross you. You look at me now. Now I'm scared. Amazing. And then I guess my final question is: did you guys both go to maybe the Dune pop-up to have that sort of experience?
You did.
Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
that.
it was
Yeah,
insane.
you did.
Me and Jess went through together, and we were terrified the whole time. We were locked, like holding hands, screaming. It was so scary. I mean, it was creepy, but I think the sisterhood is creepy, right?
Yeah.
It was creepy. It was fun. The scale of it was insane. It was like being on set. I think even some of the walls, like on set, like sometimes it was like styrofoam walls. These were rock hard. Like it was like being on set. It was a really cool experience. I think people are going to enjoy it.
I went
If it's
too,
still
so I
there.
enjoyed
Did
it.
you-
So,
did
yeah,
you-
it was super fun.
Did you?
It was super
Did you
creepy.
pass? Did you pass?
I did.
Did you
I
get
did.
your
But I
special
think they
ring?
tell that to
Special
everybody,
ring.
though.
Get your
I
special
did.
ring.
I
Did
did.
you get the? They asked you.
I want a ring.
They asked.
a ring.
I do have. It's too big for me. You can have it.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, ladies. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So when you heard that you were cast for Dune, obviously it's a huge franchise. What was your reaction? Did you feel any of that pressure, and how did you overcome that?
Oh, there's certainly pressure because there's already a built-in audience, and it's a very detail-orientated audience. But we're lucky we're 10,000 years before. We've got a bit of leeway. We're on a different planet. But obviously the scale, and these guys have done a tremendous job of creating such a monumental scale for the show and the look of it. Yeah.
And I would love to ask you, I mean, what went into creating this? What was something maybe that you knew from the books, or maybe just overall the vision for Dune that you knew you wanted to have in the series?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, I think for us was because the show is primarily about the sisterhood, the idea to kind of pull back the curtain and see what it's like, the inner workings of that organization. And that goes to like, what are they like at their school? What kind of training do they put their acolytes through? And then later on, like, how they dress, how they behave, how do they operate? That's just that idea alone was kind of fun to kind of dive into.
And then for you, when it came to acting those serious moments and very intense moments where you scared me as an audience member, what was that like portraying that in your body language? I mean, even when you weren't speaking, there was a lot in your eyes that I could see. So tell me a little bit about that process.
I think my character is he has a very hurtful background. He's got a lot of emotional scars, and he can't help but to portray them, and he's got a real vendetta with specific people in the scripts. He's got some anger problems, I think, anger issues.
What advice would you give to him? Now I'm curious. If you were his friend.
Maybe get on some antidepressants.
Okay, all right, that's a start. That's a start.
Yeah,
You first admit you have a problem, then you
drink a
start
few
the
Travelers.
solutions. Yes.
Yeah.
And what would you say would be the greatest difference between the movie franchise and now the series franchise for maybe a new audience that's coming in, that's
Right.
just being introduced to the series?
Well, if you're new to Dune, this is a great way to kind of introduce yourself to the lore. I mean, we kind of start from really sort of like the beginnings of it. Have humans been kind of unleashed from the thinking machine technology, and really about the kind of efforts to kind of make sure that they don't destroy themselves. And that's where the sisterhood kind of jumps into that breach as a kind of a guardrail against, humans in their worst forms before they, destroy themselves. I think another thing that that we were able to do with long form storytelling is really dive into kind of the deep character driven stories and kind of see the world of Dune from multiple perspectives. People vying for power and control and kind of understanding why and how they're going about doing it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, both.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you. All right, so first off, I want to ask, when you were first cast, did you feel any sort of pressure being that Dune is such a huge franchise, and how did you overcome that?
Gosh, that's such an interesting question. I think because these characters feel relatively new and fresh, I didn't really feel like I had that much sort of weight of, expectation of this character. So it gave me a really clean slate or blank slate to work with. But, that was also really exciting as well.
Amazing. Were there any real life leaders, especially women leaders, that you took inspiration from for your character?
Oh, I'm sure there are many. But, we don't see enough of them, do we? I think there are very, very, very few female leaders. But, I did go to a girls' school founded by the suffragettes. So, for me, it's always been, a really interesting question to explore female leadership. And this character really brings that to the fore. So, I think we can find so many contemporary parallels, which makes it really relatable. But, you also have to just start from something that feels truthful and real as an actor. So, yeah.
So let's say if you were the real life mother of the princess, what kind of advice would you give her?
Wow. I mean, I love all the scenes between Natalia and Yanez, and there's something to me that, it's very reminiscent of, these sort of medieval stories of, queens and princesses. But I think that Alison comes at it from a point of view of interrogating those relationships, questioning them, and challenging our received norms about them. So it's really rich and fertile territory. It's difficult to answer that question. I mean, I don't know. It's all about her trying to sort of allow her daughter to take control of her destiny and of her fate. And I think really that's something that we can all relate to as women.
Definitely. Well, I would love to know, for the new audience that's coming into Dune, what do you hope that they take away from this?
I think that the new audience that's coming into this is really going to find a kind of totally fresh, if you like, going back in time that totally informs the universe that we know and love. So there are so many kind of new characters to discover, but it's beautiful the way that it kind of weaves into perhaps the imagery or the characters that we already know, and yet gives you a real sense of how we got there. So I think they're really going to love it, because there's so much that will feel new and yet familiar at the same time.
Oh, love it. And my last question is, what do you think is the most important characteristic to have as a leader?
Well, I think in this day and age, we're really being challenged in terms of what leadership is, because we've got so many similarities. This whole notion of truth is being really put under the microscope. And in the Dune world that we're in this series, that is also being put under the microscope and challenged and manipulated by so many different factions that are, vying for control. So, maybe if I were to answer that question from Natalia's perspective, I would say, it's all about trusting your own instinct. And that might seem very old-fashioned, but it's what makes us absolutely human.
I agree. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. All right, so first off, congratulations.
Thank you.
I would love to know, obviously, this is a huge franchise. So what elements from the Dune universe did you definitely want to keep in the series that were important to you?
Oh, well, that is definitely, you're absolutely right. Dune is an enormous world building. We are 10,000 years before the films and before Frank Herbert's Dune. And we are in the shadow of the Great Machine Wars. A young Imperium is happening. Humans are fighting their way. They fought their way back from the brink of extinction, and now they're in a time of rebuilding. So I guess what we wanted to do was, on the one hand, sort of honor all the stuff that's going to happen 10,000 years from now, but by exploring, well, how did it all start? I mean, where did these organizations come from? And things that we think we know, well, how well do we know? Like, how well do we know the Harkonnen family? How well do we know the Atreides family? Like, what is their background? Where did the Bene Gesserit come from? How has the Empire functioned the way it has? So there was just something really fun about going back to a time period that's 10,000 years before, because on the one hand, anyone who knows Dune knows that their plans take place over a long period of time.
Definitely.
So I feel very connected even to the films, even that, and at the same time, I feel like, well, nobody knows exactly what we're doing.
Right, yeah.
We're really like, it's a different lifetime. And that's been fun, you know, because I think sometimes prequels are hard because you're like, well, I know exactly how this person is going to end up. And you're like, well, what's nice is you don't really know how are these people going to change their universe so that it would, you know, have a domino effect in the future that might lead to those films.
Well, speaking of which, being that Dune is such a huge franchise, did you then feel that freedom that you kind of didn't have to compare to anything in a way? So that you felt maybe to take more risks?
I would like to say yes. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I think that very much we felt like wanting to honor the Dune universe, and you know, we had obviously we had Frank's vision, but we also had Brian Herbert's book Sisterhood of Dune and Kevin J. Anderson's Sisterhood of Dune, and the trilogy they wrote about the great schools rising. The Mentats and the Navigators. So like we have this great source material on the one hand, and our characters are there, and a lot of the conflicts we're exploring are rooted there, and we are going to tell a story that takes place in a time period that very much is of the book. So that was a great guidance. But then we also wanted to see what a little bit farther out from the book, so we could understand how plans made in the books might play out 30 years later, and that gave us a bit of freedom. And that to me was a kind of great combination, because I never felt rudderless. I never felt like I was inventing out of whole cloth. But on the other hand, I didn't feel so tied that I couldn't make something that works, I hope, well on TV. You know, where you're like, I'm telling a story that's going to be over many hours, and how can character really lead us through it?
And let's say as a viewer, what was your first sort of reaction to seeing it on screen? Because I'm pretty sure that it's a very different experience seeing the set. Okay, you're seeing the like actors, but when you actually have that kind of like fourth wall in a way, like how did that feel? What was your reaction as a viewer?
Oh, as a viewer, well, I don't know that I'm ever going to be like a viewer, because it's always going to be like the 1,000th time I've watched something. But like that said, it does feel like it comes back at you new. Like when you've seen, and look, the sets were astounding. So there was magic happening that was tangible when we were filming. But then to see visual effects come in and just so elegantly, you know, build out the world in a way that it still feels grounded and it still feels immersive. And then, you know, we have Volker Bertelmann did our score, you know, and to come in and be like, oh, and now the music is here. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing better. I mean, filmmaking is such a sort of layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. And then when you kind of mix and you see it color timed and it comes at you, I mean, there's a bit of a miracle, even though you were there every step of the way. I think there's an alchemy to filmmaking, which is really kind of like, it's a bit mysterious.
Definitely magical. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you.